Welcome to today's deep dive. We are really tearing apart the website and, well, the pretty extensive offerings of the Hairstylist Empowerment podcast today.
Copyright 2026, by the way.
Right, copyright 2026. And let me tell you, it is going to completely shatter your perception of the person cutting your hair.
Oh, absolutely. It really shifts the paradigm.
Yeah, because, at first glance, you might pull up this site and think, oh, I'm looking at a standard trade show in audio format.
Yeah.
Like tips on mixing bleach, sweeping floors, maybe some basic customer service stuff.
Just the standard industry filler.
Exactly. But our mission today is to show you the incredibly complex world operating just beneath the surface there. We are looking at a platform that blends, honestly, hardcore business strategy, extremely heavy emotional labor, and surprisingly deep spiritual healing.
Which is quite the mix.
It really is. And the goal here is to uncover exactly how this platform empowers beauty professionals to, in their words, build thriving businesses and live their dream life.
It really is a masterclass in community building. I mean, and survival, honestly, because this platform, it doesn't just address the physical craft of cutting hair.
Right.
It addresses the holistic survival of the professional holding the shears. It treats them as a business owner, a captive confidant, and just a human being who takes on this immense, often completely invisible amount of weight.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to start where they start, which is the practical business survival side of things.
Makes sense. The foundation.
Yeah, because before a stylist can thrive emotionally or spiritually, they have to survive financially. I mean, if they can't pay the rent on their chair, the rest of this doesn't even matter.
Right out of the gate, the platform establishes that reality. They offer this salon solutions series of audio sessions.
Yeah, I saw those.
But what's fascinating here is the most telling piece of collateral is actually the prominent free gift they offer to visitors.
Oh, the guide, right.
Yeah, it's a guide titled 10 Client Retention Mistakes That Are Silently Killing Your Business.
Let me stop you there, because the phrase silently killing caught my attention immediately.
Oh, it's a very specific choice of words.
It is, because I would assume the biggest threat to a hairstylist's business would be, pretty loud, like accidentally dyeing someone's hair neon green or completely botching a fade. Wouldn't technical failure be the real business killer?
Well, you would think so, but a technical failure is actually a loud killer, like you said.
Right.
If you fry someone's hair with bleach, you know immediately why they aren't coming back.
Yeah, they're probably yelling at you in the mirror.
Exactly. You can identify the mistake, refund them and try to learn from it. But in the beauty industry, the silent killers are the subtle microscopic breakdowns in the client-provider relationship.
Okay, give me an example of how that actually works. What does a silent killer look like in practice?
Well, it looks like a failure to read body language, for one.
Hmm.
Imagine a client who comes in after just a terrible day at work.
We've all been there.
Right. They are quiet, giving one-word answers. If the stylist tries to force high-energy conversation because they think, oh, that's good customer service.
Because they're trying to be friendly.
Right, but the client leaves feeling exhausted and misunderstood. And here's the thing, they won't leave a bad review.
Oh, wow.
They won't complain to the manager. They just will quietly never book another appointment.
And the stylist has literally no idea why they lost the revenue.
Precisely. Or, consider the rebooking process.
Okay.
If a stylist finishes a beautiful haircut but feels, too awkward or pushy to actively ask the client to book their next trim before they leave the salon, that client walks out the door.
And then life just gets busy.
Exactly. 6 months pass and they end up going to some walk-in chain down the street just out of convenience. The stylist lost thousands of dollars in lifetime value, not because of the haircut, but because of a tiny gap in sales communication.
Which fundamentally changes how we need to look at this profession. I think we need a better analogy here for you listening. We have to stop looking at a salon chair as just a piece of furniture where you get a blowout.
It's so much more than that.
We need to look at that single chair as an independent micro startup. The person renting that chair is a solopreneur. Customer acquisition, marketing, product overhead, and client retention. These aren't just corporate buzzwords for a board of directors.
No, they're daily realities.
Right. If this micro startup fails to retain clients, the founder literally doesn't eat.
And managing a micro startup like that requires the sort of dual-track brain. You are the CEO making strategic financial decisions, and you are the assembly line worker physically executing the product, all at the exact same time.
Yeah, the mental gymnastics there are wild.
You're tracking the metrics, managing the calendar, calculating product costs, all while standing on your feet, performing physical labor for like 8 to 10 hours a day.
Which perfectly sets up the next major offering on their site. So they host this live online bootcamp, and the URL points to a specific transition. It says, moving from busy to broke.
Which is such a striking phrase.
Now, on the surface, that sounds like a paradox, right? How does a stylist manage to be incredibly busy but somehow remain broke?
It happens when the mechanics of the marker startup are just fundamentally broken.
Okay, walk me through that.
Let's look at how that actually operates. Say a stylist has a packed schedule, back-to-back clients from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. But they're terrified of losing clients, so they haven't raised their prices in like 3 years.
Oh, yikes.
Meanwhile, the cost of the professional color tubes they buy, the foil, the electricity, and the rent on their chair have all gone up 20%.
So the profit margin is just shrinking with every single appointment.
Actually, it's worse than shrinking. Sometimes they are straight up subsidizing the client.
Wait, really?
Well, if a client books a basic root touch-up, but the stylist spends an extra 40 minutes doing this intricate color correction because they want to be a people pleaser, they just lost the time slot for their next paying client.
Oh, man.
Yeah. They are burning through expensive chemical products they aren't charging for. They are physically exhausting themselves, basically running on a treadmill all day. But when they look at their bank account after paying overhead, it's empty. Maximum burnout for minimum reward.
So this platform steps in with the business arsenal to fix the math. But here is the catch. Even if a stylist perfectly manages their pricing, plugs the leaks in their overhead, and absolutely nails their rebooking strategy to avoid going broke, they hit a second, completely invisible wall.
The emotional wall.
Because to fix the silent killers and retain that client in the chair, they have to build an intense personal relationship with them.
Which introduces an entirely different kind of labor.
Exactly. Keeping a client happy isn't just about giving them good layers, it is about holding their emotional baggage. And the physical labor of the job suddenly becomes secondary to the emotional labor.
It's a huge shift.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you look at the merchandise this platform sells, you get a direct window into the psychology of this community. Do you know the standout slogan on their swag?
I do. It says, "I'm not just a hairstylist, I'm a therapist with scissors."
Yes. It is incredibly blunt. They are putting the subtext right on a t-shirt.
It's totally validating for them, though.
I have to push back on this, though, because looking at that t-shirt made me really question a societal norm we all just kind of blandly accept. Is it actually fair?
That's a good point.
Like for you listening, next time you sit in that chair and start complaining about your boss, realize you are actively testing the business model of the person standing behind you. We treat hairstylists as captive, unlicensed therapists just because they happen to be holding sharp objects near our ears.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we literally trap them behind us in a chair, stare at them in a mirror, and just start confessing our deepest, darkest secrets.
We dump our divorces, our work stress, our family drama right onto their laps. And I want to introduce a mechanical analogy for what is happening here. Think of the stylist as an electrical grounding wire.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so a client walks into the salon buzzing with static electricity, anxiety, anger, grief. During that hour, the stylist acts as the grounding wire, absorbing all of that shock, validating the client, and pulling that toxic energy out of them.
And the client leaves feeling great.
Exactly, balanced and light. But what happens to the grounding wire if it never gets discharged?
It catches fire. I mean, it burns out completely. And because of the business realities we just talked about, the absolute necessity of client retention, the stylist can't just unhook the wire.
No, they can't.
They can't look at a paying client and say, "Hey, please stop talking to me about your divorce. I'm just here to cut your hair."
They would lose the client. The micro startup fails.
Exactly. So they have to smile, nod, and just absorb the shock. That therapist with scissors merchandise isn't just a cheeky joke for the community.
Right.
It is a core identity, and it functions as a psychological coping mechanism. It's a way for them to validate to each other that the invisible weight they are carrying is real.
And the platform clearly understands that the grounding wire needs to be discharged. Because alongside that apparel, they sell hairstylists of hope gear.
Right, acknowledging the emotional support they give.
But how do the hope givers actually decompress? I dug deeper into their store, and the tools they sell are fascinating. They offer adult coloring books and journals specifically designed for this audience.
Which tells us a lot about the specific type of exhaustion they are dealing with.
Well, let's break down the mechanics of that. Why a coloring book?
Mhm.
If you spend 8 hours a day verbally processing other people's trauma, actively listening, and formulating empathetic responses, your brain's language centers are completely fried.
Oh, absolutely depleted.
You don't want to talk anymore when you get home. A journal lets you dump the thoughts, but a coloring book goes a step further. It forces the brain into a purely visual, motor-focused state.
It's meditative.
Yeah, it completely bypasses those exhausted verbal pathways. It is a non-social, solitary way to empty the tank.
It acts as a neurological reset. But the platform doesn't just leave them in isolation to color in a book. They actually build an active, high-energy counterbalance to that exhaustion.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, if you look at the criteria for anyone who wants to be a guest on their podcast, it is highly specific. They require guests to be, quote, energetic, knowledgeable, on topic, and talkative.
Wait, why mandate that someone be talkative if the audience is already verbally exhausted? Isn't that totally counterintuitive?
You'd think so, but not if you look at the direction of the energy flow. When stylists are with clients, they are stuck in a one-way energy drain. The client talks, the stylist absorbs. But by curating a network of highly energetic, talkative peers, the platform is creating a two-way energy exchange.
Oh, I see. They are designing an extroverted safe room.
Precisely. They even feature a SpeakPipe voicemail system right on the site, actively encouraging their listeners to leave vocal messages and interact with the hosts.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, they are surrounding the burnt-out stylist with people who will finally pour life and energy back into them rather than just taking it away.
So we have the business survival tactics to keep the chair profitable.
Right.
We have the neurological reset of the coloring books. We have the high-energy podcast to pour life back into them.
It's a pretty robust system.
But what happens when that isn't enough? What happens when a stylist has heard so many traumatic stories and absorbed so much of that static electricity that the burnout goes all the way down to the bone?
That is where the platform makes a massive, really unexpected pivot.
They go deep into spiritual and emotional detox. The contrast on this website is honestly jarring.
It really is.
On one page, you have a clinical guide on profit margins and client retention. On another page, you have this striking, deeply philosophical quote: "When people throw mud at you, turn it into power and peace."
It shifts from the practical realities of a micro startup directly into the profound realities of the human soul.
So what does this all mean? How does this platform act as a holistic spa for that soul?
Well, they have a core offering called the Mud Mask Mastery Program.
And the branding here is just brilliant because they take a literal physical beauty product, the mud mask, something every single cosmetologist applies or understands, and they turn it into an active mechanism for dealing with toxic people.
It operates on multiple levels. The mud being thrown at you represents the emotional sludge. The complaints, the trauma dumping, the negativity from clients.
But the mastery is the key part. You don't just wash the mud off. A mud mask is designed to pull impurities out of the pores. They are teaching these stylists how to take that toxic emotional mud, apply it, and use it to draw out their own internal impurities. Basically, transforming a negative interaction into personal power and peace.
This raises an important question, though, about how modern professionals actually find healing. When someone in a service industry hits a wall, society usually prescribes very clinical, sterile solutions.
Yeah, like take a vacation, manage your calendar better, do some yoga.
But this platform understands that true burnout, the kind that fundamentally alters your worldview because you spend 40 hours a week as a therapist with scissors, that requires interventions that are deeply personal and multisensory.
Right. It can't just be an article you skim.
No, the Mud Mask Mastery Program isn't just a PDF you read on your phone. It includes extensive courses, in-person retreats, and specific rituals.
And the specific blend of tools they use to achieve this is wild. The site explicitly states that this mastery is rooted in emotional detox, biblical wisdom, and beauty.
That combination is incredibly potent. Psychology, faith, and their specific professional craft. It's all tied together.
Yeah, they aren't asking the stylist to step outside of their identity as a beauty professional in order to find healing. They are seamlessly integrating their faith and their emotional recovery directly into the language of their everyday work.
But I want to push back on one specific piece of this healing journey because this is where I got a little skeptical.
Oh, really? Which part?
Well, Tucked away in their courses, right alongside the retreats and the biblical wisdom, is a module called Create My Song Now.
Oh, yes.
Wait, a songwriting course? For a financially stressed, emotionally exhausted hairstylist? That sounds a bit gimmicky, honestly.
I can see why you'd think that.
I mean, if I am running a failing micro startup and my brain is fried, the last thing I want is creative homework. How is writing a song supposed to fix severe burnout?
It sounds gimmicky until you look at how trauma and severe burnout actually affect the brain. As we discussed with the coloring books, logic and language centers basically fail when they are
We
overtaxed.
shut down. Yeah, you cannot spreadsheet your way out of emotional exhaustion. If you try to logic your way out of deep psychological fatigue, you will just end up way more frustrated.
Because the spreadsheets, the business metrics, well, those belong to the CEO side of the brain.
Exactly. Music, however, engages the limbic system. It accesses the emotional centers of the brain in a way that raw dialogue simply cannot.
Huh.
My song now is fundamentally about externalizing pain. These stylists spend all day, every day, listening to everyone else's stories. They are the audience for the client's trauma.
Wow, yeah.
Songwriting is a literal mechanical invitation for the stylist to finally tell their own story, to synthesize their experiences, their frustrations, and their hope into a melody that they own.
It gives a voice back to the person who has been forced to be nothing but an ear. It acknowledges that the person behind the chair is a fully dimensional human being who needs to be heard just as badly as the client sitting in front of them.
And by offering it alongside business metrics and biblical wisdom, they are treating the whole person,
Well,
mind, body, and spirit.
let's take a step back and look at the massive journey we've taken through this digital ecosystem today. We started in the trenches, looking at the sheer financial terror of the busy to broke pipeline.
Right, the harsh reality of the math.
We unpacked how a single salon chair is a high-stakes micro startup where a failure to read a client's body language can literally cost you your livelihood.
We saw the immense pressure of that dual-track job.
Then we uncovered the hidden emotional burden, the reality that the person cutting your hair is operating as a grounding wire for society's static electricity, requiring specialized tools like nonverbal coloring books and high-energy peer networks just to decompress from the sheer volume of secrets they absorb.
And finally, we explored the ultimate sanctuary this platform provides. We saw how the Mud Mask Mastery blends biblical wisdom, physical retreats, and the profound psychological release of songwriting to actively draw out the emotional impurities and, well, heal the soul of the stylist.
The ultimate takeaway for you, listening right now, is this: there is no such thing as a simple job. Any profession, no matter how surface level, transactional, or purely physical it might appear from the outside, has hidden depths.
Absolutely.
There are entire ecosystems, support networks, and emotional survival mechanisms that outsiders rarely, if ever, see. The next time you sit in that chair for a trim, remember that the person behind you isn't just cutting hair. They are running a micro-empire. They are processing your emotional trauma. And maybe, just maybe, they are writing a song in their head to turn the mud into peace.
Which leaves you with one final, slightly uncomfortable thought to mull over as we finish this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've spent all this time looking at how these professionals have to build intensive frameworks, specialized retreats, biblical rituals, and profound emotional detox programs just to survive the psychological baggage they absorb during a normal Tuesday at work. But if the person cutting the hair needs a holistic spa for their soul just to recover from the clients, what does that say about the heavy, fundamentally unresolved emotional state of the everyday people sitting in those chairs?